Let's talk about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers and the future of this franchise and the future of Bryce Young, because right now it does not look good. The Carolina Panthers went 2-15 this season, and it was terrible. You look at the offense, it was one of the worst offenses in the NFL. They were 32nd in total offense, 32nd in passing offense. That's dead last in the NFL, and they were barely able to go out there and get any rushing attack going with Miles Sanders, who they paid a lot of money to in free agency. Chuba Hubbard was the best running back with this team. But let's rewind a little bit. A couple of years ago, Dave Tepper bought this team. And since then, it seems like a huge cloud has been over this team. They cannot get over the hump. The last time they had a winning season was in 2017 when they went 11-5 and they went to the NFL playoffs and they lost against the New Orleans Saints. But since then, it has been a huge decline for this team. And Dave Tepper bears a lot of the responsibility because of bad coaches that he's brought in and just bad roster decisions. Since 2017, this team has taken a huge hit. They went 7-9 in 2018, 2019 5-11, 2020 5-11, 2021 5-12, 2022 7-10, and in 2023, the season that just passed, 2-15. But there was a lot of hope for this team on the back half of last season when Steve Wilks became the interim head coach. They went 6-6, and Steve Wilks was getting the best out of those guys. The offensive line played better. They had a good rushing attack with the running backs that they had, and they were heading into the right direction. But they went 7-10, and it seemed like Steve Wilks was going to be the head coach long term. No, they went into a different direction. Steve Wilks went to become the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. He is no longer in the NFL currently. Seems like he just has bad luck. The last time he was a head coach for a full season, he was a head coach with the Arizona Cardinals. He had Josh Rosen as his quarterback. He was fired after 1 year. I think he just has bad luck. But in terms of the Carolina Panthers, you're bringing in yet another head coach in Dave Canales, who was the former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season. So be on the lookout for this team to possibly go out there and talk to Mike Evans as he's testing his options in free agency. And also look at some other moves as well. This is a guy that was a former quarterbacks coach for the Seattle Seahawks, did great work with Baker Mayfield this season, did amazing work with Russell Wilson in the past, and also did some great things with Geno Smith as well. I think that he can come in, call plays to the right degree, and he can come out and he can help out Bryce Young. But at the same time, you have to be patient. Dave Tepper has hired so many horrible head coaches. You had Matt Rule, who was terrible with this team. He was 11-27. And you also had Joe Brady be the offensive coordinator. Look at the success that he's having now with the Buffalo Bills. He was a scapegoat for Matt Rule. And you look at the quarterback carousel that this team has had. Ever since Cam Newton suffered that injury that he got against the Steelers when TJ Watt hit his shoulder on that Thursday night football game, he was no longer the same, and his franchise hasn't been the same either. You've had quarterbacks like Teddy Bridgewater, who was a solid quarterback, but he wasn't going to be the long-term answer at that spot. You went out there and you traded a second-round pick and you exercised the fifth-year option for Sam Darnold. Well, he couldn't stay healthy and he was a turnover machine with this team. Even though he did look better when the team went 6-6 on the back half of last season, he wasn't going to be the long-term solution for this team either. So you had Teddy Bridgewater, you have Sam Darnold, you also had Baker Mayfield as well. And Baker Mayfield was a horrible quarterback for this team. Right now, he's doing a lot of good work with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you look at his team with the Carolina Panthers, he was completely terrible. You also drafted Matt Corral as well. But Matt Corral got hurt and he hurt his foot. He never played a single down for the Carolina Panthers in the regular season, which is crazy to think about. Which is the reason why this team moved up and they traded DJ Moore, a first-round pick this year, to go get the first overall pick to go get Bryce Young. But they had no weapons for Bryce Young. You look at the team this year, it was horrible coaching, but the players weren't that great either. Jonathan Mingo is a solid wide receiver. I think that he can be better moving forward. The coaching was not there for the kid. He has a lot of ball tracing issues in terms of just looking up and trying to catch the ball over the shoulder. You had numerous plays against the Chicago Bears to where Bryce Young was throwing them open. They just could not connect. And that is something that you can work out in training camps. That's something that you can work out in OTAs. Hopefully they can figure that thing out because Jonathan Mingo has huge upside and he could be a very good wide receiver and a very good productive wide receiver with this team. You took him in the same draft class as Bryce Young. So both of those guys should be able to gel sooner than later, especially with Dave Canales calling plays. Not only will he just be the head coach, he's going to also be the main offensive play caller as well. And I love that because he did a very good job with handling those play calling responsibilities with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's basically addition by subtraction. You take him away from Tampa Bay Buccaneers, an in-division rival, and you bring him over to this team. You also had Adam Thielen, who was the only wide receiver on this team that was consistent and that was going to go out there and help out Bryce Young. Adam Thielen is an older wide receiver. He's 33 years old. He's going to be 34 years old when the new season starts, but he had 1,014 receiving yards on the season and 4 receiving touchdowns. And that's very good production for Adam Thielen. When you get over 1,000 yards receiving in this type of system with how bad the offensive line play was, that's pretty impressive. And speaking of that offensive line, Bryce Young was the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and he didn't even play the entire season. He missed a game against the Seattle Seahawks. And Andy Dalton did come in, and he performed very well, but Andy Dalton got sacked numerous times in that game as well. The offensive line has to be better. They signed Austin Corbett a couple of years ago in free agency. He was a star guard with this team. He was a star guard with the Los Angeles Rams, but he missed some time this season dealing with that knee injury. Hopefully he can come back and he can be a very good offensive lineman with this team. When he is fully healthy, he's a good offensive lineman. But you look at Ickey at the left tackle position. He allowed 11 sacks this season and he had 12 penalties. In the last 3 games, he did look better. It's put up a shut-up time for Ickey. Either he can get better or you're going to have to kick him in the guard position. There's no in between. He may be too big to play that guard position, but right now he seems like he's too slow to play that tackle position. He doesn't do good against speed rushers, and they just run right past him. Look at what Kayvon Thibodeau did in the preseason. Look at what the look at what the defensive ends were able to do to him throughout the entire season. He was not able to keep up, especially in that New Orleans Saints game. When you had Shaq Thompson went down early in the season, he was not able to protect Bryce Young at all. If you want to give Bryce Young a fighting chance, you have to get more playmakers on this team, of course, but you have to go out there and continue to fix the offensive line. You have Bradley at the center position. I think that he can be a solid veteran moving forward, but you have to look at other pieces to put on this offensive line. There is no reason why this offensive line should be as bad as they are with the talent that they have. Taylor Moton is still a solid tackle to have on this team. He's the best offensive lineman. You look at Taylor Moton. He only allowed 1 sack this season, and he had 4 penalties. But he allowed the most pressures in his career this season because they'll just run a blitz off that side. Or they'll just run a blitz off the opposite side of Ickey, and it gave Bryce Young no time in the pocket. It was too many times this season where Bryce Young did not have enough time up front, so he'll have to just throw the football away, or he'll just have to eat the sack. And this is a quarterback that is undersized. I do worry about that. I really do. I think if he continues to take this type of beating, he's not going to be able to last in the NFL. He's undersized to begin with. The fact that he only missed 1 game this season is very shocking. And he was able to go out there and still fight and give this team his all. So that's impressive. I'm going to throw away his rookie season because he only had 11 pass touchdowns and 10 interceptions. It wasn't all on him because you have a terrible owner, horrible coaching. But moving forward, I need to see more out of Bryce Young as well. And I think Dave Canales can get the most out of Bryce Young. This is a guy that worked with Russell Wilson, and I think Bryce Young has that type of ability. Not the Russell Wilson we see today, the Russell Wilson of a couple of years ago when he was taking the Seattle Seahawks deep into the NFL playoffs. I think that's how good Bryce Young can be. But right now, he is a huge question mark. We don't know what Bryce Young is because of the horrible play on the field by the offensive line and the horrible play calling as well. And you know when I talked about Frank Reich? Frank Reich came in to be the head coach of this team after he just got fired to Indianapolis Colts. He brought in his entire coaching staff. And yet again, they ripped it away. This is the 3rd time in the last couple of years that you're coming in, you're bringing in a brand new head coach. You went from Matt Rule. Steve Wilks was the interim head coach. You bring in Frank Reich, that didn't work out. And now you're bringing in Dave Canales. You need to have consistency at that position. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to be a poverty franchise with this team. And that is very sad for Carolina Panther fans because like I mentioned before, you didn't have these problems with the previous ownership. You had Cam Newton. You had guys like Luke Kuechly. You were in the Super Bowl in 2015 against the Denver Broncos. And since then, both of those teams have been in a horrible situation. But the Carolina Panthers have been in a worse situation because they can't figure out that quarterback problem. And now they also have an owner problem as well who wants to go out there and throw drinks on people during the Jacksonville Jaguars game, which is ridiculous. You look at the defense with this team. I think that they are very good. This defense is slept on. They were fourth in total defense, third in passing defense. You could say that their rushing defense wasn't the best because they were 26 in rushing defense, but a lot of that was due to injuries. Shaq Thompson got hurt early in the season by his own teammate. He slammed a Saints player down on his ankle, completely shatters his leg. I think Shaq Thompson is a solid linebacker. He could come in. He could fill in that role. He's very good. You look at a guy like a Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu is very good. He's an ultimate playmaker with this team. He is a free agent. I expect for this team to go out there and to re-sign him. I expect for them to go out there and do everything that it takes to re-sign him and bring him back to this team. 125 total tackles, 66 solo tackles on the season, 5.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. He's a very good playmaking linebacker with this team. You also have the Brian Burns controversy with this team. 8 sacks on the season, 1 forced fumble. He is a tremendous pass rusher. I love me some Burns, but they should have traded him a year ago. When the Los Angeles Rams offered 2 first-round picks, you should have traded him then. But instead, right now, you're in a situation to where he's up for a contract extension. You're going to either have to tag him and trade him, or you're going to have to tag him and extend his contract. They should have traded him a couple of years ago to get back some draft compensation to go out there and help out a guy like Bryce Young. But hindsight is 2020. Scott Fitterer didn't want to do that at the time. And you're bringing in a brand new general manager as well. I love that because the era of Scott Fitterer and Matt Rule was just terrible. Scott Fitterer had to be one of the worst general managers in Carolina Panthers history because of some of the dumb decisions that he made. With bringing in guys like Sam Darnold, bringing in guys like Baker Mayfield, and basically throwing away those picks. Sam Darnold was a horrible trade because you traded a second-round pick. That could have been a very good depth player or a very good starter with this team. Instead, you threw it away for a quarterback that was injury-prone and is turnover-prone as well. That was a Scott Fitterer decision with David Tepper because at the end of the day, everything does stop with David Tepper, but Scott Fitterer brought up that idea to go out there and do that after you've just been rolling the dice at the quarterback position. But right now, you do have your quarterback. I look at the rest of the defense. They're very good. Like I mentioned before, Derek Brown is a premier interior defensive lineman. I love this game. He can pressure the quarterback. He can stop the run. He's very productive. J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson, they're a very good cornerback duo. As long as both of those guys can stay healthy, they are very good. I look at a guy like C.J. Henderson. I don't even know why he was on this team this season. He shouldn't be on this team moving forward because he is terrible. He's not a good number 1. He's not a good number 2. And when he's at that number 3 spot, he's terrible as well. Get rid of him. He's burnt toast. They should have got rid of him after they went 6-6 with Steve Wilkes. That's how terrible he is. Another horrible trade for the Carolina Panthers because they went out and they traded for C.J. Henderson as well after he was a bust with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm surprised it did not hurt their defense even more in that secondary because that's how terrible he is with this team. You could say that he played better this season, but at the same time, you're a former first-round pick. You should not be this bad right now. He seems like he's a 5th or a 6th-round pick with this team. I like the safeties with this team as well. Jeremy Chin has not had the same rust with this team because you have guys like Xavier Woods and Von Bell who are 2 very good safeties with this team. But hopefully you can bring back Jeremy Chin as well. I like the rotation that they have at that safety spot. The defense is fine. The biggest thing, do you want to keep Brian Burns around or not? You're not going to get a first-round pick for him. That's not going to happen. So it makes sense to just hang on to him, sign him to that contract. He's a very good, productive pass rusher. He did not have those crazy numbers this year. He only had 8 sacks, but he's a very good, productive player. You have to go out there and watch film. He did have some nasty moments against the Dallas Cowboys. It seemed like the effort was in play. Was in question, but at the same time, you look at him, he's a very essential defensive player with this team because besides him, you're not going to get as much pass rush from anyone else on a consistent basis. You have to keep him around, in my opinion. You should have traded him a couple years ago, but like I mentioned before, hindsight's 2020. I expect for the Carolina Panthers to be a better team this upcoming season. You have to win more than 2 games, which is not going to be hard to do for this team, hopefully. They just need their offense to be average. If your defense can go out there and they can be 3rd in passing defense and 4th in total defense, dealing with all the turnovers that this offense had, dealing with all the miscues that this offense had, there is no reason to why if this offense is just above average, that this team cannot be a dangerous threat in this division. You look at what they did against the Atlanta Falcons. You won that game by 3 field goals. If you can win a game with your kicker kicking 3 field goals, imagine what you can do if the team just go out there and they can just score 2 to 3 touchdowns in the game. That's it. Just 21 points. That's all they have to do. And it seems like it won't be that hard, but you never know dealing with the Carolina Panthers. You need to bring in some more wide receivers. DJ Chark did have some good moments this season. He had some bad moments as well against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was running to the goal line. He fumbled the football to Antoine Winfield. But Antoine Winfield got a lot of players this season dealing with that. You can bring him back as well. The only thing I worry about with him, he's not the best route runner, and he deals with a lot of injuries. He's known for one thing, taking the top off the defense and getting past people. That's pretty much it. Hayden Hurst was a terrible contract with this team. He can't stay healthy. And I do want to send my prayers to him and his family. He suffered a nasty concussion. He was dealing with some amnesia issues. We'll see if they can go out there and they can kind of restructure that contract, or if he still wants to continue to play. Because if he doesn't, you can get some money back from him, and you basically just cancel out that contract if he does want to retire. But we will see what goes on with that. So you may have to go out there and bring in another tight end as well. It's just a terrible contract with this team. And like I mentioned before, the run game wasn't that positive. Chuba Hubbard was the best running back with this team. And that's unfortunate, not because Chuba Hubbard is just a terrible player or a terrible person. He averaged 3.8 yards a carry. He had 5 rushing touchdowns for 902 rushing yards. The problem is you paid Miles Sanders to be that lead running back with this team. Miles Sanders is making top running back money. He had 432 rushing yards. He averaged 3.3 yards a carry for 1 rushing touchdown. And he also had a fumbling problem as well. I understand that he started the season, he was dealing with a leg injury, but throughout the entire season, he didn't look good. The only reason that he got this big, massive contract with the Carolina Panthers is because he played in a great system with the Philadelphia Eagles behind that good offensive line, and he was playing with Jalen Hurts. Besides that, he wouldn't have got this money. He's an average running back at best. I don't care what anyone says. And there's a reason why they didn't give him those many snaps in the Super Bowl. Kenneth Gainwell was the guy that was getting the snaps and getting the carries in the Super Bowl. It wasn't Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is a fumbling running back, and he can't play making space. He can't catch the football out the backfield effectively enough. You have to go out there and figure out this running back problem as well. Fortunately for the Carolina Panthers, there's going to be a lot of good productive running backs in free agency. But the main thing with the Carolina Panthers moving forward, fix this offensive line. Hopefully, coaching can come in and they can figure this thing out. If you want to give your quarterback a fighting chance, get this offensive line situated and just get more playmakers around Bryce Young, whether that's in the backfield or in the perimeter as well. Because Bryce Young, even though a lot of games this season were terrible, he had a great game against the Green Bay Packers to where the offensive line actually played up to standard for majority of the game. The defense let them down in that game. And it's pretty ironic because the defense was the most consistent unit with this team. But in that game, if the defense was able to just come away with just 2 to 3 stops, they would have been in a better situation. But I'm not going to hold that against the defense at all. You look at Bryce Young against the Green Bay Packers. He was 23 of 36, 312 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He only got sacked twice in that game. When he doesn't get sacked as much, he comes out and he looks very good. I know what happened against the Detroit Lions. He only got sacked once, but at the same time, he got pressure majority of that game. So if you keep him inside the pocket, you keep him upright for at least 2 to 3 seconds, he can make some big plays for you. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Carolina Panthers and what should they do moving forward? Like I mentioned before, do not be surprised if the team goes out there and they make a heavy play to go out there and get Mike Evans. I understand that Mike Evans has been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers every single year in his career. He's the guy that's going to go down to Tampa Bay Buccaneers legend. He has over 1,000 yards receiving every single year in his career. He has a Super Bowl ring with that team. But this is not the same NFL from the early 2000s to the 90s. Players will not just stick around just for loyalty. He wants to go out there and he wants to make money and he wants to be respected. He had a great relationship with Dave Canales. You bring in Mike Evans and he can change the entire narrative around the Carolina Panthers in that wide receiving room. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Carolina Panthers and what should they do in free agency and what should they do in the NFL draft? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, we want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.